Y'all think this is kind of a natural progression for an industry that's fully matured? In other words, I think for a kind of an outside company to come in that hasn't had to live through the growing pains of a shrinking industry,
right,
and knowing it being dependent on, you know, X dollar of sales from the late 90s,
right,
for a tops or an upper deck, to a very small percentage of that in today's standards. They didn't have to deal with that, so
right,
they're starting with a clean slate, so to speak.
Right.
And they have a lot of money. They're able to come in and just sort of scoop up everything, and maybe not make a lot of money, and maybe even lose money here in the short term, just to try to ride out this period of shaking out of the old manufacturers. I think it's pretty common in open industries that aren't regulated or controlled in some sort of way.
Right. Yeah, it very well could be. I mean, Panini was a $900 million company 2 years ago, so they've got the war chest, so to speak, to withstand some bumps. But the industry has been in the process of kind of self-correcting itself for 15 years. I mean, since the boom, and then the late 80s, early 90s boom, and then kind of ever since then the oversaturation era, and so you wonder if all these licensing moves are they moves to try to survive, or are they moves to try to get us back to thriving as an industry?
I think it's a cyclical kind of thing, honestly. I mean, for me, I was trying to think as you were talking, like the car industry. You know, cars have not changed like baseball cards have.
Right.
You know, 20 years ago, a baseball card was much more different than it is today.
You got spinners on, like, you know, Cadillacs. You got rims don't stop.
Yeah, I mean, those are accessories, right?
Well, that's like the Jersey card would be the spinner.
Okay. But think about that. I mean, you know, the actual definition of a trading card since 1987 has been altered in such a dramatic way in terms of the you know, what you'd expect. When you guys broke the Exquisite box, you're talking about the flip open the memorabilia book. You know, that would blow your mind if somebody was in the DeLorean going back and coming forward.
I know, but is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing
both.
it is. It's a good thing, I think, for a collector who thinks that's really cool.
It is.
But for the industry, it's not a good thing,
right,
because trading cards have become so complicated and so outlandish and so expensive to produce.
You can't top yourself every year.
Not only that, you can't even sustain it. You
Right.
can't make. They've got so complicated that you, especially in the shrinking market, it's almost impossible to make money, because it's so expensive to produce the crazy, you know, wheels off, you know, technology that we have today.
And you've got that combined with, you know, licensing monies that aren't going down, autograph acquisition money that is not going down.
Right, that's not going down.
You know, those the ones that the people at the top of the what's the word?
The food chain.
They're not going to take less money to make baseball cards or to sign autographs, because they've got money already. They don't need less.
Well, the counter argument to that is they might, if that's all they're getting.
Right. When
if
you get to the last
three companies jockeying for
right,
that, then they'll have to lower their expectations, or they won't get any deals.
Or you won't have any cards, period.
But the one thing that I've noticed that is universal across all these decisions is that the collectors almost in unison don't like the exclusive situation. I mean, even people who were diehard enemies of Upper Deck or of Tops, they bemoan the day when it comes out that they're no longer doing it, because it does drive creativity.
I don't think a lot of dealers like it either. I was talking to a local dealer here a couple months ago, and he was complaining that when you have these 4 and 5 week gaps in between new products, you get collectors coming in and they say, well, you know, what do you have? Well, we've got 2010 Topps Finest. And they can buy that, and they open a lot of that product, and they come back 2 weeks later and ask the dealer, okay, what's new? Well, we still got 2010 Topps Finest, but in 2 weeks we're going to have, you know, the next Topps product.
The foot traffic falls off.
So the foot traffic falls off. They get, you know, the dealer gets upset because he's still selling, he can only sell Topps Finest for so long.
Right.
But don't you think, generally speaking, that's kind of an unhealthy environment anyway?
Correct. Yeah, I think
if
yes.
his whole traffic and his whole sales is only on the new products,
yes,
or 90% or 80%, that's not healthy.
Yes, yeah, I agree. I think the less product is better. I think it's better to have 15 or 20 rookie cards for a key guy, as opposed to Pujols and each year we have like 60 or 80 rookie cards when we had 90-something products in baseball in 2001.
Well, the other thought too, I mean, and I know this doesn't necessarily matter to some people, but you know, I think that's part of the monopoly argument. To me, if you don't like what Topps does in 010, you can always go back and find those old products from other companies, at least in the interim. So I think even a move like this in some ways helps the secondary market for older products. You know how junk wax is.
Question.
If I don't want to go buy the latest Topps box for $80, I can buy a box from 3 years ago for 40 or 30. You know, and there's nothing saying, well, that's a big part of it for me. I mean, you know, collecting on a budget, and there's nothing to say that the good cards aren't in there if you're not talking one-of-ones or obscure rarities.
Right.
You know, there's still stuff in there. So, you know, with fewer choices, there are. You know, I think there are other options in the market for dealers who, you know, bemoan the lack of new stuff. Think about stocking some other stuff that might be
I think it's
interesting.
natural that collectors would go back to collecting stuff from whatever, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever period they like, or they kind of rediscover.
Or they never even leave those time frames, really.
Yeah, and if that happens, I think that is a huge positive for our industry, because it means that people still, at some level, still like to collect cards, still want to go back, and I'm getting this. So
It's not symbolic.
Are we still rolling?
Yeah, so that could be healthy.
One thing is certain, we're not going to answer all the issues here, but we wanted to kind of throw them out there, discuss them. We'll have more of this conversation, I'm sure, as we go along. So thanks for watching and for listening, and hug someone you love today.
Boom.